Hi guys, Mike here from TerraQuip Drilling Equipment. Today we're going to be looking at the controls of the MRP 350. The first thing we're going to do is start up the machine. We have the remote, we have the machine here. The keys are here in the back. First things first, we got to put the isolator on. Second thing, before we start the machine, make sure the RPM knob is to the minimum. We don't need to touch this. Then on the remote control, we make sure that the safety emergency button is off. We're also going to make sure that on the machine the other emergency buttons are off. This is one, and this is another one. Turn this off. Now I'm ready to start the machine. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start the remote control. The remote control has here on the side, it's got this little key. Got to make sure that we put this in. Then once the remote control has started the initiation process, we're going to turn on the key. We're gonna turn this green switch to the right towards radio. In order to see the display from the remote control, you have this top left hand side button here. This is to increase the brightness of the screen. So this is the least amount of brightness, but if I press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, I'm going to increase the brightness of the screen. Pressing 5 times, that's the maximum. We can see here the display light side. You can see here the remote control is on. Now I'm ready to establish the connection between the remote control and the piling rig. So I'm gonna press this little side button here. It says green, which green. I keep that pressed, and then I'm gonna wait for this button to turn green, for this switch to light up. I'm not sure if you can see it, it's very sunny, but it turned on. Once that's turned on, that means the communication has been established between the remote control and the machine. Once that's ready, I have the engine start sign here. There's a little button on the side. What I'll do is I'll press this and I'll keep it pressed until the machine starts. Now the machine has started. Now I'm ready to increase the RPM by flipping this upwards. The machine has started, and I'm ready to start the operation as well. For the next part of the video, we're going to be focusing on the controls, the operation of the rig, the positioning, the drilling, the extracting, the crowd, and of course the mast extension. We're going to be starting with lifting up the mast, extending the mast. In order to do this, I need to make sure that there's enough slack in the main winch rope as well as the auxiliary line rope. The auxiliary line rope is hooked up here to the machine, but I gotta make sure when I'm extending the mast that I'm releasing enough auxiliary line and enough main winch line. The way I'm gonna do that is by pushing this left joystick controls the main winch. So if I push this, the main winch is gonna start unspooling. I'm not gonna release too much because I don't wanna create a mess here on the drum. I'm gonna make sure I've got enough auxiliary as well. The auxiliary line is being controlled by this button here that says SEC, secondary. It stands for secondary. So if I push this, in order for that to work, I need to make sure that I'm not on the crawler. So from this switch, now it's towards the crawler, I need to go towards operation. That's operation, that's crawler. If this is on operation, the auxiliary line is not going to work. It's not going to allow me to move the auxiliary line. So I have to switch this towards operation, and then once I switch this, my auxiliary line is going to start unspooling. I'm going to make sure I have enough auxiliary line, but not enough to create a mess like I already did. Okay, now having somewhat enough slack in the main winch rope and in the auxiliary, I'm gonna lift the mast. I've got two positions to lift the mast. The first position is from here. The second one is here. So it's got the mast and the mast extension. It's a telescopic mast and it's gonna start lifting. So I'm gonna start with this first. I'm gonna start pressing slowly. Now, as you can see, my Kelly bar has already started lifting. Now I'm already very close there to the sheave. So what I'll do is I'll push this left joystick in order to release the main winch. Okay, enough. I'm gonna start again with the main winch, with the mast. I'm gonna press this so you can see my mast lifting up. When I'm doing this, I also gotta make sure that the Kelly bar is not locked into the rotary. Because if the Kelly bar is locked into the rotary and I'm trying to lift the mast, the actual main winch is gonna hold. We're gonna bend, either bend the mast or break the rope. I'd say probably break the rope first, but yeah. So if it's not locked, I'll continue to lift. So that's the maximum that I can lift for the mast. Now I'm ready to use the mast extension to lift from the mast extension, but first I'm going to create a little bit more slack on both the auxiliary line as well as the main line. So first I'm going to start with the auxiliary line. I'm going to push this forward. We can see there the auxiliary line. I gotta make sure when I lift the mast that this is not gonna catch something like the emergency stop button or one of the hoses or one of the brackets. I gotta make sure that nothing is in the way, so keep a very, very close eye on this. Now I'm ready to release a little bit more from the main winch rope by pressing the left joystick again. Okay, that's enough. I don't want to release too much in order to create a mess there on the main winch. And now I'm ready to push this forward in order to use my mast extension. Gotta make sure that nothing is in the way as I'm lifting this. I'd say that's pretty good. Now I'm ready to lower the Kelly bar even more by lowering by using the main winch. Okay, I'll make sure the auxiliary line has enough slack in it, so I'm gonna release even more. Okay, I'd say that's pretty good. That should be enough. I'm gonna release the main winch a little bit more. Okay, now I'm gonna continue to lift the mast extension. Gonna lower the main winch a little bit more. And I'm gonna continue with the mast extension. Okay, I'm gonna lower the main winch a bit more. And I'm also gonna release the auxiliary line a bit more because it's getting quite tight there. Okay, that should be okay. And now I'm gonna continue with the mast extension. Okay, that's the maximum. Now that I've extended the mast all the way up, I'll increase the RPM a little bit more. You can see here the RPM on the screen. It's a little bit dirty. So now the RPM are at about 1500. I can go to with the RPM all the way to almost 2500 RPM. I don't need it all the way up right now, so I'm just gonna go back. Now that we've extended the mast, we should talk a little bit about the actual crowd cylinder, so the rotary, and about the actual drilling operations. So how do we rotate, how do we discharge, how do we apply crowd force on the rotary using the cylinder and releasing the main winch. It's very, very important to release the main winch, to free fall it by pressing this button when you're drilling down. Very, very important. Okay, we're gonna be starting with the rotation. The right hand side joystick here, the little joystick, if I press to the left, the machine is going to start drilling, right? So to the left, that's turning the rotary clockwise. By pushing the right joystick to the right, it's gonna turn it anti-clockwise. And obviously, if I wanna fast left right, that's gonna allow me to discharge the material. In regards to the rotary rotation speed and torque, we have a few settings here. You can see this this button here is towards the max, so that's the maximum RPM. I'm gonna put that to the middle. It's got the maximum torque settings. It's got 1, 2, and 3. And I'm gonna put this one to the middle as well. We're also gonna have rotary high torque. I'm gonna flip that on. That means both the hydraulic motors from the rotary are going to be used. If I have this on one, there's only one hydraulic motor that's going to be used. So we're going to use both of them. Okay. So I'll drill. I'll unlock. I'll come out of the hole, and when I'm ready to discharge, if I want to go directly to the high speed, I'm gonna keep this pressed, and I'm gonna move left and right from here. So keep this pressed. It's hard to keep the left button on and then move this one while holding the phone as well, so sorry about that. Okay, now we're gonna talk a little bit about applying crowd. So the right hand side joystick here, if I pull back, that's gonna lift my rotary. If I push down, Obviously I gotta make sure that when I'm pushing down, I'm either holding this button or my Kelly bar is not locked in the actual rotary. How do I make sure that it's not locked? I'll make sure by having this side of the lock all the way here. So you can see now, it's on the friction part. It's not on the locking part. That's how I make sure the Kelly bar is not locked on the rotary. So very important, don't forget to press the free fall button when drilling. It's extremely important. Okay, so on the right hand side we have the drilling functions: rotate clockwise, anti-clockwise, apply crowd, pull up on the crowd cylinder, push down, and if I press this, this is the free fall for the main winch, the free fall button for the main winch. Now in terms of the slew, if we push this to the left, the machine is going to be slewing left. I'll make sure there's nothing in the way here. I push this to the right, the machine is going to be slewing right. Okay. Now another function that's worth mentioning is basically the winch hold off. If you've got this button on, where it says warning, make sure this is off at all times. You turn it off by using this side button here. So this is off now, so I'm okay to drill. Then the auxiliary button, that's just basically to cancel my limit switch. So if I have this down, I have no limit switch on the main winch. If I have it up, the main winch is going to trip as soon as the swivel goes up into that square block there and lifts it up. It triggers a limit switch, and then it's going to cancel the main winch. It's not going to allow you to go up, it's going to allow you to come down. Okay, we're going to try this, but first I'm going to bring my mast down because it's a little bit too high. So I'm going to use the mast extension. I'm gonna pull up on the main winch a little bit. And come down with a... I'm gonna pull up a little bit on the auxiliary line. That's enough. Okay. So now I got this down. So if I pull on the main winch, I pull on the Kelly, lift up the rotary a little bit higher, I pull up on the main winch, it's not stopping, you see? The Kelly bar wants to pull through the sheave and through the cathead. Very dangerous. But if I flip this down, it allows me to go down. But once I reach up there, it stops. Right? So that's your limit switch, auxiliary. Okay. Another important feature is the expansion of the tracks. So this little rig comes with expandable tracks. You can see there. If I push this, so this is the, I should have started with this button. This is either crawling, tracking, or operations. So operations, crawling. If I have this towards crawling, I can access my track expansion or retraction. So if I push this up, my tracks are going to be expanded. If I pull it down, they're going to retract. I'm going to need to increase the RPM. I'm going to help it a little bit with the tracks. You can see the tracks retracting. Okay, so that's tracks retracted all the way. I'm gonna play a little bit more with the rig now. So what I want to do is expand them just to make sure I'm safe. Okay, since we're also talking about the tracks right now, I also want to mention we got two options here for the crawler. Fast crawler on. But be careful because it is very fast, especially on high RPM. So I'm going to decrease the RPM. You can see it's quite quick. By pressing this, I'm going to go forward. By coming back, by pushing this back, I'm going to go back. And then if I flip this down, and I push my two levers in front, the rig is going to move very, very slow. Okay. I'm gonna leave it on low. Then we're also gonna talk about the mast positioning. So once we track to the machine above the hole, we obviously want to level the mast. I'm going to do that by flipping this to the right and then selecting here. I have 4 tabs on my display: 1, 2, 3 and 4. If I click on 4, it's going to give me the drilling depth and the X and Y axis. And if I go on 3, so select 3 from here. I'm not sure how much you can see, there's a lot of glare there. So you can see the green button there, the green indicator being almost in the middle. So on the axis X, we're minus 1.8 degrees. So we need to tilt the mast forward until it reaches 0. The way I'm going to do that, I'm going to make sure this is pointing towards operation, and I'm going to use these 2 levers here in order to action the two tilting cylinders, left and right, left and right. So the left one modifies the left, the right one modifies the right. Once I leveled my mast, or sort of 0.1, 0.5, half a degree, I'm ready to reset the depth. So once the Kelly bar is down here, let's say the auger is touching the ground, the way to reset the depth is by keeping this start button pressed. You can see here this turned to 0 because I kept the left hand side button where it says start, I kept that pressed.